So this chapter is about how to form a business. I'm going to go over the different types of businesses and how to form a business. There's a lot of different entities in here. They list them, they discuss them for your test taking purposes, for your midterm purpose of your midterm. Just remember the definitions, what's a sole proprietor, so on and so forth. You'll see them listed in your chapters. I'm going to preface here, these are sort of the three basic forms of businesses: sole proprietorship, partnerships, and corporations. There's many types of partnerships. There's many types of corporations: C corps, S corps, LLPs, LLCs, master limited partnerships, all types of different forms of businesses. But they're really just these three main forms. So sole proprietorship is essentially you are the business owner. You own the business. You are the business. It's in your name. The business is your name. You use your social security number, or you can take out a separate tax ID through the IRS. Very simple process to do, by the way. You go, there's like a IRS website. You could just create a tax ID. So it's a very simple, easy process to do. So what you need to do if you want to start a business as a sole proprietor is you just need to make sure that you have the ability to run and start a business. So for example, maybe you're a green card holder, or you're a citizen, and you're able to legally start a business. So the important thing is anyone can start a sole proprietor, which means you can start your own business. You can begin to get wholesale products. That means that if you wanted to start buying things wholesale, if you want to start selling things, you could do so as a sole proprietor. You don't need anything fancy. So what you need to get is a business certificate. Getting a business certificate requires you to go down to the county clerk's office and you request a business certificate. It's a document they may inform you on the type of document you need. They don't always have the documents there. It's a certain form. The name escapes me now. It's a form. You fill in your name, your information, the name of the business, and you have to get it notarized. So you sign it, get it notarized. Usually whoever sells it can notarize it for you. And then you take it down to the county clerk. You could get your DBA as well. You're doing business as name. The DBA allows you to do business under a specific name as a sole proprietor. So that means you could be Christian Washington, DBA, doing business as I sell stuff in Brooklyn, right? That could be .com, and that could be your DBA. So I could do business under the name I sell stuff in Brooklyn. And, I could have like logos and merchandise and whatever signage that says I sell stuff in Brooklyn. And that's my DBA. Assuming no one else has that DBA on the local level in Brooklyn, I could use that DBA. And once you have the DBA, and you'll see like John's Coffee Shop or Joe's Coffee Shop. And then there's another Joe's Coffee Shop in Iowa. And there's another Joe's Coffee Shop in California. So the DBA doesn't prevent you from doing business outside of the state. It's just relative to doing business as in that area, but it doesn't limit you, even though, because you see people have the same business name elsewhere. So you can register yourself with a certificate of authority. You can then you can then take your sole proprietorship, register yourself as a business. You can get a separate tax ID, which is what I would recommend you do. I don't recommend you use your personal social security number as your sole proprietorship, I recommend you go on the IRS. You just Google tax ID number, and there's like a form you fill out, and you can get a separate tax ID number. You probably, I think you need to have like you need to have some information for them, and you can get a separate tax ID number. And that's the tax ID number you would use and attach to your business. Once you have that set up, it's a couple of $100, maybe $150 to register your business with a DBA, doing business as. It may have went up. I'm sure it's went up since then. And once you have the business set up, you could go to any merchant that wholesales, and you could start putting in orders for wholesale products. They may request a in New York, they may request it's a license that you get from the city. It's a city state license for taxes, to pay city tax, to pay state tax, stuff like that. It's just something you register at the city. So once you have proof of setting up your business, you can just get that through the city. And many businesses want your tax ID, proof of incorporation, or proof that you set up a business. And they may request, not always, they may request that license, because the products that you may or may not be buying wholesale, they may they charge state tax. Like you buy something and there's sales tax. So it's like a sales tax certificate that you get. So if you're buying products that require sales that the state collects sales tax, then you need to have that certificate. So the first step, though, is just sort of registering a DBA, doing business as, and getting a business certificate with your local county clerk, and getting a separate tax ID with the IRS, because you don't want to use your social security number, even though you can. And then just getting the state tax certificate, so you can collect taxes and then pay the taxes to the state. And you could literally go to any business that sells wholesale and just provide them the forms that, you're a business, you're a sole proprietor, you're giving their tax ID, there's the state certificate, and then you can start buying things wholesale. You can sell them online. You can sell them however you want. So it's actually literally like you could spend a day going to the county clerk, asking some questions, going online, and you could literally just set yourself up to start selling stuff tomorrow. And that's the sole proprietor. And I'm saying that because it's very cheap and inexpensive to do everything I said. It's a couple $100 to probably process everything I mentioned. Have your own doing business as. You can go to the bank, you can set up a business account and the name of the business with the tax ID. And that's it. You're now a business owner. You can now start buying wholesale products and selling wholesale products. Obviously, the industry affects what you can and can't buy. Some wholesalers, depends on the industry you're in, depends on what you're selling. Some will only sell if you have a brick and mortar store. Some won't sell to online merchants. It depends on the industry you're in, right? So I can't just go to get a sole proprietorship and say, okay, I want to buy some Mercedes-Benzes. There's probably a process you have to go through to do that. To do that. So, but the point is, you can start your entrepreneurship process on a couple $100 and be licensed and start selling stuff. The partnership is where you're actually forming partnerships and corporations, or where you're actually forming in a physical entity. And that physical entity is his own business, is his own, functionally living entity that is doing business, you're doing business on behalf of through that entity. So you are technically an employee or an owner of that business, and people are doing business through the entity, right? So, for example, if I own, let's say I own a corporation, let's say it's a C Corp, let's say I sell shoes, right? Washington Shoes Incorporated. So I have a business, Washington Shoes Incorporated. I'm selling shoes. when I go to buy the shoes, let's say I buy wholesale shoes, or maybe I'm having them manufactured over abroad, or I'm going directly to a manufacturer. Maybe I'm getting specialty stuff made in Italy, who knows, whatever, wherever. Something unique. I'm buying stuff, I'm importing it over. They're not doing business with me. They're doing business with the entity, Washington Shoes Incorporated, right? So the business is writing the checks. The business is paying the bills. The business is receiving the shoes. The business is selling the shoes. I'm just the owner managing the business, right? So the business has its own tax ID. The business is its own entity. The business is doing its own thing. And the relevance of that is if something happens legally, the business is legally responsible. I'm probably not legally responsible, assuming I didn't do anything crazy. Like, for example, one of my employees hurts themselves in the warehouse, and they want to sue because they said, "Oh, the environment was unsafe." Obviously, OSHA would determine if that's true or not, and you'd have liability insurance. Your corporation would have to have liability insurance to function, state insurance, and all that stuff. But for the most part, if they sued me and they were successful in suing me and they won the lawsuit, they would be suing the corporation, which is Washington Shoes Incorporated. They wouldn't be suing me, the individual. So I could be a millionaire, cars, boats, whatever the hell it is. I got a whole lot of money. And my corporation maybe has a couple $100 left because I'm going bankrupt, right? And they sue the corporation. They're suing the corporation, right? They're not suing me. So my personal assets are protected because it's the corporation that's doing the business. The corporation is the one that's responsible. Legally, maybe they could try to go after the owners. It depends, right? It happens where, let's say in real estate, contractor does business. A contractor is someone that you contract to build or develop or do something with your real estate. So you hire a contractor, let's say to build a patio or something, all right? And they build a patio in your backyard, but they don't finish the patio. Let's say that you pay them a 50% deposit, and then they don't actually complete work. Let's say they don't even do any of the work and they disappear. And you sue them, right? Because they have to be insured. That usually you're supposed to hire someone that has insurance, right? You hire the contractor that has insurance. So when you hire a contractor, you ask for their insurance policy, and they should be able to provide you a copy of their insurance policy, which shows you that they're licensed, bonded, and insured. That's just something you should do. If they don't have it, then you probably shouldn't hire them, or at least understand the risk you're taking by hiring them. So if you hire them, they don't do the work, they don't complete the work, you sue them, right? So it's some, this is very common, by the way. Contractors, they'll take like 10 jobs, they won't do any of the jobs. They'll take the money and they'll just disappear. They'll just take all the money out of the business and they'll just disappear. So now you got 10 people suing the contractor, and they're suing the corporation, and the corporation is now bankrupt and has no money. Then what? What do you do? Right? Clearly, the owner stole the money and ran. But then does the corporation protect the owner in this case from theft because there's a deliberate attempt to use the corporation as a shell to steal? So in most cases, the corporation will protect you, but in some cases, a crime is a crime. So it's more legal work, and it's more legally expensive to then pursue beyond beyond the auspices of the corporation, to then go after the owners and so on and so forth, if you even know who the owners are, because it could be an offshore corporation or some crazy stuff like that. So it's more expensive. There's more legal work that's involved in terms of suing. Whereas if you have the sole proprietor, you're the one getting sued, right? So if you had a massive shoe business with hundreds of employees and it's a sole proprietor, and someone gets injured or gets hurt and sues you, they're suing you, the person. And whatever lawsuit that they win, you are paying that out of your pocket. So that's why sole proprietor is great for starting off as a small business, small side hustle. As you grow and expand, you want to transition to a corporation for the protection. Corporation also allows you the legal benefit, it's taxed differently. It allows you to create and invest, get capital from investors to raise capital, sell shares or share classes of your corporation to investors, things of that sort. And there's many different types of corporations. If you're an individual, an S corp, but you want the protections and the benefits of an S corp of a corporation, you usually do an S corp. So think of sole proprietorship S, sole corporation S corp. If it's a standard business is usually going to be a C corp. Partnerships are where you have many different professionals coming together to start a practice. Maybe a group of doctors, dentists, lawyers, financial advisors. They're setting up a partnership. You'll see sometimes a partnership is set up when there's more than one owner. You'll see that, and that's done for tax purposes, usually liability and very specific tax purposes. So each of these entities is also taxed differently, has certain tax benefits, certain advantages you could use tax-wise. The tax consequence and then the reason for how you would want to raise money or raise capital or sell parts or pieces of your business to investors. The ownership, the partners, the type or form of business plays a very important role. And that's what I explained to you guys is essentially the gist of this entire chapter is those three aspects. If you want to set up a corporation, you can go to LegalZoom.com and you can set up a S corp or a C corp. Couple of months, you pay. They charge you a very nominal fee. You pay the filing fees. You pay any other miscellaneous fees. You fill out the online paperwork, and you got yourself a corporation. You're responsible for doing quarterly taxes. You're responsible for any biannual fees or filings you have to do. You're responsible for anything responsible as terms of managing the business on your end, but they'll do all the paperwork and filing for you. So LegalZoom can set up a business for you pretty easily. A sole proprietorship is just taking a trip down to the county clerk and just having the appropriate paperwork required beforehand, notarized business certificate beforehand. If you're not sure where to get it or where to obtain that, and you don't know how to use Google to find it, you can ask them. The county clerk's office in Brooklyn by Metrotech. They'll direct you to a gentleman in Court Street. He has a little bodega inside of a commercial complex, and he sells all that. He sells all the Blumberg commercial products, and he'll sell you the document. You sign it, he'll notarize it. Boom, you bring it down to the county clerk. You get your DBA. You pay whatever the fee is, and you're a business owner. And you go ahead and get your tax ID, and you can start selling stuff. So I wouldn't let all this stuff get too convoluted. In terms of what type of corporation you should set up, you consult your CPA, you talk to your accountant. Most of it's an accounting tax reason for what type of entity you set up, and based upon your business. The last thing is the corporate structure. Talking about corporations generally, you have the shareholders, you have the board of directors who are sort of responsible for hiring the officers, and then you have the CEO, the C-suite or C executives, the chief executive officer, chief technology officer, chief operating officer, chief financial officer. These are the people that are sort of in charge of running the business. And underneath them are the middle level managers, and underneath the middle level managers are the lower level managers, and then you have the employees. So think of the lower level managers, the lowest level managers as, you go into your local store like a Home Depot or Target, and you see a manager on the floor managing the store. That's a lower level manager. But then that manager is responsible to a district manager who may be responsible for managing all the Targets in Brooklyn, or all the Targets in Manhattan, or all the Targets in New York. And that district manager then has a high level manager who's an area manager, who's then responsible for maybe the Targets in New York or Northeast. So they may cover multiple states. Then you have a higher level manager that may be covering territories like the Midwest or the West Coast or all of the East Coast. And then you have like the C-suite guys who are sort of running everything, you know, who are managing those guys. And then there's other departments. There's HR, there's the finance departments, there's the logistics and the trucking and the shipping and all types of stuff, right? And there's different departments. There's grocery, there's this, there's that. So there's probably subdivisions. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But that's usually how the corporations are set up. It's stratified based upon territories, hubs, smallest to biggest to widest to wider, and the span of control a single manager can manage. A single manager can only manage what, 50 employees, 100 employees, right? So then you got to have, you know, you can't manage 10,000 employees. So you see that each manager is managing other managers, and you know, but then they're also managing other departments and dealing with other things that the lower level managers aren't dealing with. And that's sort of the gist of it. But there is no one way to manage. There is no one way of how an operation, a structure, a hierarchy is. It depends on the business. It depends on how many employees. It depends on the organization's goals. It also depends on how the company is structured and what they're doing. You have some businesses, they just have a director. That's it, like a director of sales, director of marketing, director of this, and then like a head director, and then just employees, and maybe some liaisons, and that's it. Because it's a smaller company, or that's just how they do it. So there isn't one right structure. It's really figuring out how you stratify the business based upon span of control, span of authority. How many employees can someone manage, look after, or workloads can they look after? And you're figuring out that in relation to sources of structure to manage that. So that is all that is all for the day. Unfortunately, there are some other people in the waiting room. I didn't get to them in time, but they can definitely watch the recording. Thank you for joining the class, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording, and I'll see you again next week, Thursday, same time.
Okay, teacher.
All right, sweet.
You got
Take care,
questions?
Professor.
Just shoot me an email.
Nice, Sigma.